Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment. Where in the world are you watching from? The alarm shattered the silence of the small bedroom at exactly 5:30 a.m., its sharp, relentless beeping pulling Jack Carter from a restless sleep. With a heavy sigh, he slapped the button and sat up, rubbing his tired eyes in the dim gray light of dawn. His gaze fell on the photograph on his nightstand, a smiling woman holding a newborn baby. He touched the frame softly, a ritual that never failed to ignite a quiet ache in his chest. "Morning, Sarah," he whispered gently, gathering his strength for another demanding day. Jack's footsteps creaked softly as he entered Lily's room. She lay curled up, hugging a faded stuffed rabbit named Mr. Bun tightly to her chest. He watched her peaceful face for a heartbeat, his chest swelling with a fierce love that pushed aside the exhaustion. Gently shaking her shoulder, he murmured, "Come on, sweetheart. Time to wake up." Lily stirred slowly, eyes fluttering open. "Morning, Daddy," she mumbled sleepily. Jack smiled warmly, gently brushing a strand of hair from her eyes. "Let's get moving. School waits for no one." In the kitchen, Jack hurried through breakfast preparations, scrambling eggs while simultaneously making peanut butter sandwiches for Lily's lunchbox. He glanced anxiously at the clock, his jaw tightening as time seemed to slip away faster than ever. Bills stacked on the countertop mocked him silently, another looming reminder that things had gotten increasingly tight since Sarah passed. He swallowed the rising anxiety and forced a smile as Lily climbed onto a chair, yawning adorably. "Eggs again?" she asked, wrinkling her small nose. "Best eggs in town," Jack replied, forcing brightness into his voice. "And don't even pretend otherwise." Lily giggled softly, filling the small kitchen with warmth. For a fleeting moment, Jack felt hopeful, reminded that no matter how challenging things got, Lily's laughter was worth every sacrifice. Moments later, Jack juggled Lily's backpack, lunchbox, and his own tools, rushing toward their aging truck. He glanced down at his watch, heart sinking as he realized he was already running late for work again. The old engine coughed roughly to life, and Jack tightened his grip on the steering wheel, silently begging the worn vehicle to hold on a little longer. "Daddy," Lily's voice piped from the back seat, "are we going to be okay?" He swallowed hard, heart aching at her innocent question. "Always," he promised softly, fighting to keep the fear from his voice. "As long as we've got each other, kiddo, we'll always be okay." Yet, even as the reassuring words left his lips, Jack felt the familiar weight settle onto his shoulders, a quiet worry that today would test him again, pushing him closer to a breaking point he refused to acknowledge. The sky darkened abruptly, unleashing torrents of icy rain that hammered down onto the pavement. Jack shielded his eyes, hunching deeper into his worn jacket as he hurried along the bustling sidewalk. Around him, pedestrians scrambled for shelter, holding newspapers and briefcases overhead, their faces twisted in annoyance. His boots sloshed heavily through puddles, the water quickly soaking through his socks. He barely noticed, too focused on the lingering anxiety from the overdue bills piled high on his kitchen counter. As he navigated through the frantic crowd, something caught his eye, a sleek black object, half submerged in a puddle, its polished surface reflecting the glimmer of passing headlights. Jack slowed to a halt, squinting through the downpour. Reaching down cautiously, he picked it up, immediately recognizing it as an expensive leather wallet, soft, supple, and clearly well-made. Glancing around, he searched for its owner, but the crowd had already dispersed, leaving him standing alone under the dim glow of a street lamp. Jack flipped it open, his breath hitching slightly as he saw the stack of crisp $100 bills tucked neatly inside. His pulse quickened, heart thudding against his chest. It was enough money to settle his overdue rent, maybe even give Lily that birthday party she'd been asking about for weeks. He swallowed hard, adrenaline surging through him as temptation whispered softly in his ear, urging him to pocket the cash and walk away. His fingers trembled slightly as he sorted through the contents, looking for some clue about the wallet's owner. He found a driver's license tucked behind a platinum credit card. The name read Emma Kingsley, accompanied by a photo of a strikingly beautiful woman, her eyes confident yet surprisingly vulnerable. He paused for a moment, staring at her image, curiosity mixing with a deep pang of empathy. How frantic would she be when she realized her wallet was missing? Jack exhaled slowly, shoving the wallet deep into his jacket pocket, its weight heavier than it should have been. As the rain continued to pour relentlessly, soaking him to the bone, he felt a powerful certainty settle inside him. Keeping the money wasn't an option. Sarah had always taught him to do the right thing, even when it was the hardest thing imaginable. He owed it to her memory, and he owed it to Lily. "Come on, Jack," he murmured to himself, stepping firmly back onto the rain-slicked pavement. "You're better than that." He walked swiftly into the stormy evening, determination pushing through his exhaustion. He'd find this Emma Kingsley. He'd return what was hers, even if the reward was nothing more than a clear conscience. Emma Kingsley stood at the towering windows of her penthouse office, overlooking the cityscape below. From up here, everything seemed distant, untouchable, coldly beautiful. Neon lights reflected against sleek skyscrapers, casting vivid colors through the misty drizzle. She stared, but tonight she felt no comfort in the stunning view, only a hollow echo of loneliness deep within her chest. Her phone buzzed for the 6th time, demanding attention from her cluttered desk. A sigh escaped her lips. Another message from a man she'd met at last week's charity gala, filled with superficial flattery and transparent promises. She deleted it without reading, tired of the constant parade of insincerity. "I don't need more admirers," Emma whispered to herself bitterly, turning from the window. "I need someone real." She wandered slowly around her spacious office, fingertips brushing over polished wood and marble surfaces that felt increasingly empty despite their opulence. Framed awards lined the shelves: CEO of the Year, Most Influential Entrepreneur, symbols of achievement and power. Yet they held no warmth, no comfort. Emma's eyes softened as she stopped in front of a small, faded photograph tucked behind her corporate accolades. A snapshot of her younger self, carefree, holding her father's hand at the county fair. Before the money, before the expectations, before the loneliness. Her phone rang sharply, jolting her from memories. She hesitated briefly, gathering her composure before answering. "Kingsley Enterprises. Emma speaking." "Emma," her assistant Claire began apologetically, "I'm so sorry to bother you this late, but your wallet isn't here at the office either. We've checked everywhere. Maybe you left it at the cafe?" Emma closed her eyes in frustration. It wasn't about the money, she had plenty, but about feeling vulnerable, losing control. "It doesn't matter," she sighed wearily. "I'll handle it tomorrow." "Do you need anything else tonight?" Claire asked softly, sensing the melancholy in her boss's voice. "No," Emma whispered, forcing a smile into her voice. "You go home, get some rest." She hung up and sank onto the plush leather sofa, massaging her temples as weariness settled heavily upon her. The silence around her grew louder, accentuating her isolation. Her success had built walls around her, each new accomplishment isolating her further from genuine connection. Emma longed for something money could never buy, an honest conversation, laughter that wasn't calculated, love that saw beyond her wealth. She closed her eyes, picturing an ordinary life, simple and fulfilling, without layers of agendas and false praise. But that life seemed impossibly far away now, like a distant dream she'd once had as a girl and foolishly allowed herself to forget. Emma exhaled, determination hardening within her. She couldn't go on like this, drowning quietly in luxurious isolation. Somewhere out there had to be someone authentic, someone who could see past Emma Kingsley, Millionaire CEO, and simply see Emma. Tonight, she promised herself silently, she would stop settling for less. Jack stood nervously outside the towering glass doors of Kingsley Enterprises, shifting uncomfortably as he wiped his rain-soaked palms against his faded jeans. The polished marble lobby inside glittered intimidatingly under bright lights, the sheer opulence of the place making him painfully aware of his worn boots and threadbare jacket. Taking a deep breath, he pushed the door open and stepped inside, heart hammering in his chest. The receptionist eyed him warily from behind a sleek glass desk. "May I help you?" she asked politely, though the skepticism in her gaze was unmistakable. He cleared his throat, pulling out the damp leather wallet from his pocket. "I found this on the street last night. It belongs to Emma Kingsley. I'd like to return it to her personally, if possible." Surprise flickered across her carefully composed face. After a moment's hesitation, she lifted the phone and murmured quietly into the receiver. Jack waited anxiously, feeling acutely out of place as suited executives passed, casting curious glances his way. Moments later, a door down the hallway opened. Emma Kingsley stepped out, elegant and poised, in a tailored cream suit, her dark hair falling gracefully around her shoulders. Her confident steps slowed slightly when she saw Jack standing awkwardly by the desk. Their eyes met, and something unreadable flickered in her gaze. "You found my wallet?" she asked, her voice smooth and calm, though Jack sensed the careful guard beneath her words. Jack offered a small, sincere smile. "Yeah, it was lying in a puddle, soaked through. I figured you'd probably be missing it." He held out the wallet, watching her expression closely. Emma took the wallet cautiously, flipping it open briefly to confirm its contents. Her brow furrowed slightly in disbelief when she saw all the cash untouched, every credit card in place. Her gaze rose back to Jack, genuine astonishment in her eyes. "You didn't take anything?" Jack shook his head gently. "It wasn't mine. Figured you'd need it back. No strings attached." Emma regarded him carefully, curiosity brightening her gaze as if she had just discovered something rare, something real. "People don't usually return wallets filled with money, especially to someone like me," she admitted quietly. Her voice softened. "What's your name?" "Jack Carter," he answered simply, a hint of warmth entering his voice as he met her steady gaze. She studied him, intrigued. Jack was different. No flattery, no subtle manipulations, just genuine kindness. Her heart quickened slightly, surprising her. "Thank you, Jack," she said softly, sincerity coloring her voice for the first time. "This means a lot." He nodded humbly, already backing toward the exit, uncomfortable under the intensity of her gaze. "You're welcome. Have a nice day, Miss Kingsley." "Emma," she corrected instinctively, then paused, a smile ghosting across her lips. "Call me Emma." He returned her smile, the warmth in his eyes disarming her. "Emma," he repeated softly, then disappeared out the doors, leaving her standing in stunned silence. For a moment Emma didn't move, feeling strangely off balance. Something about Jack Carter lingered, resonating deeply. It wasn't just his honesty, it was something more profound, something she hadn't encountered in years. Emma clutched the wallet tightly, a soft sigh escaping her lips. She realized, with a quiet shock, she was already wondering if she'd see him again. Jack was halfway across the marble lobby when Emma's voice echoed sharply behind him. "Wait, Jack!" He paused mid-step, heart skipping slightly as he turned back toward her. She approached quickly, heels clicking decisively against the polished floor, determination flashing in her eyes. "I didn't properly thank you," she said earnestly, slightly breathless from her haste. "Please let me at least offer you something." Jack's cheeks flushed lightly, embarrassment settling on his face as he shook his head gently. "Honestly, it's nothing. Anyone decent would have done the same." She raised an eyebrow, incredulous. "Not everyone. Believe me, I've learned the hard way that kindness like yours is rare. Let me show my appreciation." Emma reached into the wallet again, instinctively pulling out several crisp bills, holding them toward him. Her eyes held an intensity he hadn't anticipated, a need to balance the scales, to not be indebted. Jack, however, stepped back, shaking his head firmly, quietly maintaining his dignity. "I didn't return it expecting payment," he said softly. It just felt like the right thing to do. Please, put your money away." She blinked, taken aback. Emma was accustomed to transactions, not genuine altruism. Men in her world accepted rewards without hesitation, often pressing for more. Yet here stood Jack Carter, humble, genuine, refusing to be compensated for doing something simply because it was right. The gesture left her momentarily speechless, fascinated. "You really won't take the money?" she questioned softly, studying his expression carefully. "No," he replied gently but firmly. "It wouldn't feel right." For a lingering moment, Emma searched his eyes, seeking an ulterior motive, something that would rationalize this unexpected purity. But all she found was sincerity, earnestness, and a quiet strength she hadn't encountered in years. A spark ignited inside her, impulsive and warm, compelling her to act before rational thought caught up. "Then at least let me buy you dinner," she said abruptly, surprising even herself, "to thank you properly." Jack's eyebrows lifted, genuine shock crossing his face. "Dinner?" Emma nodded quickly, a playful smile softening her features. "Yes, dinner. Tonight, if you're free." Jack hesitated, his mind racing with doubts. He thought of Lily, the responsibilities waiting at home, the mountain of bills needing attention, and yet, as he looked into Emma's hopeful eyes, something deep within him stirred, a desire he'd long pushed aside, buried beneath obligation and exhaustion. He took a slow, calming breath, fighting down a nervous fluttering in his chest. "Are you sure you want to have dinner with me?" Emma's expression softened, sincerity deepening her voice. "I'm more sure than I've been about anything in a very long time." Jack felt warmth spread across his chest, a rare sensation of hope, chasing away lingering anxieties. He finally nodded, allowing a shy smile to tug at his lips. "Then, yes, dinner sounds nice." Her eyes brightened, relief and excitement blending beautifully on her face. "Good. I'll have my assistant message you the details." Jack watched as she turned gracefully, striding back toward her office with renewed confidence. He stood there a moment longer, breathing deeply, realizing that somehow, through the simple act of returning a wallet, his world had shifted, and he was more ready than ever to embrace whatever came next. Jack nervously adjusted his tie, borrowed hastily from his friend Mark, as he waited outside the restaurant. The elegant building, with its intricate architecture and warm glow, loomed before him, casting soft, golden light across his tense features. Doubts crept through his mind. Maybe he'd misunderstood her invitation. Maybe this was a terrible mistake. Before he could lose his nerve entirely, Emma appeared from a sleek black car that stopped smoothly at the curb. Jack's breath caught. Emma looked stunning in a simple black dress, understated yet undeniably elegant. Her gaze met his, and for a moment, the vulnerability he saw softened his anxiety. She smiled warmly, dissolving some of the tightness in his chest. "Glad you made it," she said gently as she approached, eyes sparkling with genuine delight. "I almost didn't," Jack admitted, rubbing his neck sheepishly. "Not exactly my usual Friday night." Emma laughed softly, guiding him inside with gentle encouragement. The restaurant's luxurious interior dazzled him. Crystal chandeliers, delicate china, and perfectly ironed white tablecloths. He'd never been somewhere so grand. As the maitre d' showed them to their table, he caught sidelong glances from other diners, their curious gazes prickling his skin. Once seated, Emma noticed Jack fidgeting uncomfortably, reading the menu with an expression that bordered on panic. She leaned in, her voice low, comforting. "Jack, ignore everything around us. It's just dinner." He met her reassuring eyes and exhaled slowly, relaxing slightly. "Right, just dinner." As their food arrived, dishes Jack had never even heard of, Emma casually began the conversation, skillfully steering it away from discomfort. "So tell me about yourself," she encouraged warmly. Jack hesitated, searching her eyes for judgment, but found only sincere interest. "Well, I'm a single dad, My daughter Lily is 6. She's my entire world." Emma's expression softened further, captivated by the tenderness in his voice. "She sounds lovely." He smiled genuinely now, confidence growing with thoughts of his daughter. "She is, but being a single parent, it isn't easy. Bills pile up, work hours are brutal, and sometimes I wonder if I'm doing enough. Lily deserves more." Emma listened intently, drawn deeply into his honesty and humility, feelings rarely shared so openly among the carefully guarded circles she navigated. "Jack, money doesn't equal happiness," she said quietly, almost more to herself. "Believe me, I've learned the hard way." He raised an eyebrow, surprised by her sudden vulnerability. "But you seem to have everything," he said carefully. "I can't imagine you wanting anything you couldn't instantly get." Emma's gaze flickered downward, a faint blush touching her cheeks. "Money can buy comfort, not connection. You'd be surprised how empty everything can feel, despite appearances." She glanced back up at him, sincerity burning brightly in her eyes. "That's why meeting you, someone genuine, someone truly honest, it matters." Jack swallowed hard, feeling a surge of empathy he hadn't anticipated. "Well, you have my honesty. Not much else I can offer someone like you." Emma reached across the table impulsively, gently touching his hand. "You've already given me more than anyone else has in years, Jack." Their eyes locked, a powerful, quiet understanding building between them. The rest of the world, the elegant diners, the sophisticated setting, faded into insignificance, leaving just the two of them, two souls from different worlds discovering unexpected common ground. By the end of dinner, Jack felt something shift within him. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, happiness was closer than he'd ever imagined. Jack stood near the entrance of the glittering ballroom, tension settling uncomfortably into his shoulders as whispers followed him around the luxurious venue. He could feel the judgmental eyes of Emma's wealthy social circle boring into his back, their expressions silently condemning his worn shoes and inexpensive suit. Anxiety prickled at the back of his neck, but he steadied himself, determined not to let the discomfort show. Emma stood several feet away, engrossed in conversation with two elegantly dressed women whose carefully composed smiles couldn't hide the subtle disdain in their eyes. He watched her for a moment, struck again by how effortlessly she blended into this world, her world. A sudden pang of insecurity tightened in his chest. What was he doing here? "You must be Jack," a voice drawled from behind him. Jack turned, forcing a polite smile at a tall man whose confident demeanor and sharp eyes screamed privilege. "Yes, that's right," Jack replied, extending a hand in greeting. The man shook it briefly, the gesture perfunctory and cold. "David Harrington," he said with a thin smile. "I've known Emma for years. Surprising choice she made, bringing someone like you tonight. Must feel like hitting the jackpot, huh?" Jack stiffened, the man's implication clear. "Excuse me?" David chuckled softly, condescension lacing his voice. "Come on, Jack. No need to pretend. We all know how these things work. Charming guy from humble beginnings meets wealthy woman. Classic story. But Emma deserves better than some opportunist." Jack's jaw tightened, fists clenching slightly at his sides. Anger sparked within him, mixed painfully with humiliation. "I don't want Emma's money. I'm here because I care about her." David lifted a skeptical eyebrow. "Right. That's exactly what an opportunist would say." Before Jack could respond, Emma's voice cut sharply across the conversation, vibrant with restrained fury. "That's enough, David." Emma approached swiftly, her eyes blazing with fierce indignation. Her usually poised demeanor fractured, replaced by passionate intensity that surprised even her. "Jack doesn't owe explanations to you or anyone else here." David seemed taken aback by Emma's uncharacteristic passion, raising his hands defensively. "I was simply expressing concern." "Concern?" Emma scoffed, disbelief coating her voice. "Or judgment? You have no idea who Jack is or what kind of man he is. He returned my wallet filled with money, expecting absolutely nothing in return. He's here tonight because I want him here, because he's genuine, kind, and honest, qualities that clearly elude many of you." The room around them had fallen quiet, conversations halting abruptly as the guests turned their attention toward Emma's unprecedented display. She stood firmly by Jack's side, challenging the silent scrutiny with unwavering determination. Jack felt warmth flood through him, the humiliation fading, replaced by awe at Emma's courage and fierce defense. "Maybe," Emma continued, her voice softer but no less resolute, "instead of labeling him, you should learn from him." David glanced around awkwardly, clearly embarrassed, murmuring a hasty apology before retreating into the crowd. Emma exhaled slowly, tension visibly easing from her shoulders as she turned toward Jack, her eyes searching his face anxiously. "I'm sorry you had to endure that." Jack shook his head gently, a quiet smile pulling at his lips. "Thank you for defending me. I didn't expect that." Emma met his gaze earnestly, sincerity filling her voice. "I meant every word. You deserve respect." Her words lingered between them, weaving a powerful connection deeper than before. And as Jack held her gaze, he knew then that despite the glaring differences between their worlds, he had already found something truly rare, someone willing to stand beside him, even when the world around them demanded otherwise. Jack sat alone at his modest kitchen table, the warm glow from the overhead bulb barely illuminating the mounting stack of unpaid bills that mocked him from the countertop. The quiet hum of the old refrigerator mixed with the faint sound of Lily sleeping peacefully in the next room. He rubbed his eyes tiredly, anxiety coiling tightly in his chest. Ever since that extravagant gala, uncertainty had burrowed itself deep inside his thoughts, gnawing at him relentlessly. He glanced down at his phone, Emma's last text still glowing softly on the screen. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow." Simple words that sent warmth surging through his chest, quickly replaced by a heavy wave of worry. He knew deep down, beneath the thrill of something new and beautiful, that he was treading dangerous waters. Jack's mind flashed back to the gala, the disdainful whispers, judgmental glances, and David Harrington's sharp accusations. They echoed louder in the silence of the kitchen, feeding the persistent fear that clawed at his heart. How long before Lily heard whispers, too? How long before his innocent daughter was forced to endure ridicule because her father dared to cross into a world he didn't belong? The image of Lily's bright, trusting eyes filled his thoughts, making his heart ache painfully. She depended on him, trusted him completely. He couldn't afford mistakes. He couldn't risk hurting her. His fists clenched involuntarily. No amount of happiness or romance was worth compromising his daughter's well-being. He rose abruptly from the table, pacing restlessly. The apartment felt smaller than ever, walls closing in, amplifying the suffocating uncertainty. What right did he have to risk Lily's security on a whim? Emma's life was one of privilege, extravagant dinners, and expensive galas, worlds apart from his struggle to keep food on the table and electricity running. But Emma... Jack's footsteps faltered, his breath hitching painfully. The way she defended him so passionately had shaken him deeply, touching a place in his heart that had been locked away since Lily's mother passed. Emma's sincerity and kindness weren't illusions. He'd seen the loneliness behind her carefully maintained facade, felt her genuine warmth during quiet moments they shared. Could he truly walk away from someone so extraordinary? Jack leaned against the wall heavily, battling conflicting emotions. He imagined Lily's face, innocent and curious, exposed to the cruel judgment of Emma's circle, enduring pain she hadn't asked for. No, his daughter deserved stability, safety, things that felt increasingly uncertain around Emma's glittering world. He took a deep breath, feeling the heavy weight of sacrifice settle into his bones. He knew the right thing wasn't always easy, and the protective instinct he felt toward Lily overshadowed any dreams he might dare to chase. He picked up his phone again, fingers trembling slightly as he typed a careful, deliberate message. "Emma, we need to talk." He stared at the words, a profound sadness gripping his heart. Maybe protecting Lily meant sacrificing his own happiness, but as long as Lily was safe, nothing else mattered. Nothing else ever would. Jack stood anxiously at the kitchen sink, hands immersed in warm, sudsy water as he scrubbed vigorously at the stack of dishes that had accumulated from breakfast. His mind raced restlessly, replaying his tense conversation with Emma the night before. She had insisted she understood his concerns, gently yet firmly reassuring him that she wanted nothing more than to be part of his life. And Lily's, too. Still, unease lingered deep within him, a quiet fear he couldn't quite shake. The sudden sharp ringing of the doorbell startled him out of his thoughts. Drying his hands hastily, he moved toward the front door, heart pounding as he opened it to reveal Emma, standing nervously on the worn welcome mat, a hesitant smile brightening her eyes. "Emma, what are you doing here?" he asked softly, surprised, yet secretly relieved to see her standing there, looking beautifully out of place in his modest neighborhood. She shifted uncertainly, her smile shy yet hopeful. "I thought maybe we could talk in person, if that's all right." Jack hesitated, about to answer, when a cheerful voice cut through from behind him. "Daddy, who's at the door?" Lily appeared at his side, her curious blue eyes wide as they studied Emma carefully. Jack watched, breath held tight, as Emma's expression softened immediately, warmth spreading through her eyes. Emma crouched down gently, meeting Lily's gaze with genuine kindness. "Hi, you must be Lily. I'm Emma, a friend of your dad's." Lily tilted her head thoughtfully, a shy smile forming slowly on her lips. "You're pretty." Emma laughed softly, warmth coloring her cheeks. "Well, thank you, and you're even prettier. You look just like your dad." Jack watched, emotions swirling painfully within him, as he witnessed the easy connection forming between the two most important people in his life. It was beautiful and terrifying. He wanted desperately to protect Lily, yet something about Emma's gentle, genuine manner made him begin to reconsider his fears. "Do you like coloring?" Lily suddenly asked Emma, eyes sparkling with anticipation. "I love coloring," Emma answered sincerely, her smile widening. Without hesitation, Lily reached forward, taking Emma's hand confidently. "Come on, I'll show you my crayons. We can make pictures together." Emma glanced up at Jack, uncertainty flickering briefly across her face. He nodded quietly, encouragement in his eyes, and Emma allowed Lily to guide her inside the small living room, kneeling beside the low coffee table scattered with crayons and drawing paper. Jack stood silently by the doorway, watching as Emma and Lily bent close together, laughing softly, quickly losing themselves in creating pictures. Emma listened attentively as Lily animatedly explained her drawings, the tenderness in Emma's expression stirring something deep and protective within Jack. Time seemed to pause in that quiet moment, filling his heart with cautious hope. Emma's genuine connection with Lily wasn't forced or artificial. It was real, authentic, something Jack hadn't dared hope for. After a while, Emma looked up, sensing Jack's eyes on her. Her gaze was gentle, almost questioning, seeking his approval. He offered a reassuring smile, his heart softening considerably at the sight before him. Maybe, just maybe, he'd underestimated Emma. Maybe she could fit into their humble life more naturally than he'd imagined. And as he watched Emma laughing softly with Lily, something shifted inside him. For the first time, he allowed himself to believe that their worlds weren't so impossibly different after all. Jack glanced up from the kitchen table, startled slightly by the sudden chime of his phone vibrating softly against the worn wood surface. Lily was curled up on the couch nearby, completely absorbed in a coloring book, the tip of her tongue poking out slightly as she concentrated. Smiling briefly at his daughter, Jack lifted the phone, eyebrows furrowing slightly at Emma's name lighting up the screen. His heart quickened with uncertainty as he answered. "Emma?" "Hi, Jack," Emma's voice came through, gentle but tinged with a subtle hesitation. "Do you have a minute?" "Of course," Jack replied quietly, stepping away from Lily into the hallway, sensing immediately that whatever Emma had to say was significant. "I wanted to invite you, and Lily, to a charity gala next weekend," Emma said cautiously, the nervousness in her voice betraying the casual tone she was trying to maintain. "It's at the Kingsley Grand Ballroom, a fundraiser for local children's hospitals. It means a lot to me, and I'd really like you both to be there with me." Jack's chest tightened, his mind instantly filling with doubts and anxieties from the last time. The whispers, the judging eyes, David Harrington's sharp accusations, they all came flooding back. A gala felt like throwing Lily straight into a lion's den. "Emma," he began softly, voice heavy with hesitation, "you know how the last one went. Do you really think bringing Lily into your world right now is a good idea?" Emma's voice softened further, earnest sincerity threading through her words. "Jack, I understand your concerns, but this gala, it's different. It's about families, children, hope. If I'm ever going to truly blend our worlds, people need to see us together. They need to understand that we're serious." Jack's breath caught slightly. Serious. The word echoed deeply within him, sending a surge of emotion racing through his veins. It was terrifying and thrilling. His silence lingered a bit too long. "I promise you," Emma continued softly, determination firming her voice, "I won't let anyone disrespect you or Lily. This is my chance to show everyone exactly what you mean to me." Jack closed his eyes briefly, his pulse racing anxiously. He glanced back toward the living room, watching Lily color happily, innocence shining brightly from her young face. Could he really expose her to that world again? Could he trust Emma to protect them both? "Jack," Emma prompted softly, a gentle urgency in her tone, "please trust me." He exhaled slowly, heart battling mind, desire wrestling fear. Finally, he surrendered to the sincerity he heard clearly in her voice. "All right, Emma, we'll go." He heard her exhale sharply with relief, the tension in her voice easing immediately. "Thank you, Jack. You won't regret this, I promise." Jack hung up gently, leaning his forehead against the cool wall, uncertainty still lingering within him. Despite Emma's reassurances, something deep down whispered warnings of potential trouble, conflict looming just beneath the gala's glittering surface. But as he stepped back into the living room, watching Lily's joyful expression as she proudly showed off her drawing, he knew he was making the right choice, for now. Emma deserved the chance to prove herself, and maybe, just maybe, the gala could finally bridge the gap between their two very different worlds. Jack tugged at the collar of his borrowed tuxedo, the stiff fabric pressing uncomfortably against his neck. The grand ballroom around him shimmered under the soft glow of crystal chandeliers, filled with elegantly dressed guests whose laughter blended seamlessly with the gentle music of a live string quartet. Though the setting was breathtaking, Jack felt distinctly out of place. A dark shadow amidst dazzling elegance. Emma stood gracefully beside him, her hand resting lightly in the crook of his arm. She smiled confidently, warmly greeting each arriving guest, expertly navigating through polite conversation and social pleasantries. But Jack couldn't shake the growing unease coiling tightly in his chest, acutely aware of subtle glances and murmured whispers following them around the room. A group of Emma's friends approached, each one impeccably styled, their smiles just a little too perfect, their greetings just slightly forced. Jack stiffened instinctively, sensing judgment beneath their polite facades. Emma introduced him warmly, proudly, her eyes hopeful. He offered a polite smile in return, feeling the weight of their scrutiny pressing against him. So Jack, one woman, tall, elegant, with a carefully maintained air of superiority, began smoothly, "Emma mentioned you're in automotive repairs, was it?" She raised an eyebrow subtly, clearly unimpressed. Jack cleared his throat softly, nodding, fighting to keep the discomfort from his voice. "Yes, I work at a local garage." "Oh," she responded, her voice dripping with barely concealed disdain. How quaint. Well, at least Emma seems happy. Jack's jaw tightened slightly, embarrassment heating his face. He glanced at Emma, hoping for reassurance, but she appeared momentarily distracted, greeting another couple warmly. Frustration twisted inside him, deepening the chasm he already felt widening between their worlds. Another guest leaned in, voice lowered conspiratorially but still audible. I hear he returned her wallet, fully loaded. Either he's naive or he's playing the long game, the man whispered, clearly unaware or uncaring that Jack could hear every word. Jack felt his face flush with a mixture of anger and humiliation. Emma turned back, sensing the shift in atmosphere. She saw the tightness in Jack's expression, confusion flickering briefly in her eyes. She stepped closer, gently placing her hand on his arm. "Jack, is everything okay?" she whispered softly, concern coloring her tone. He hesitated, biting back a sharp retort, unable to shake the sting of their words. "I'm fine," he muttered quietly, though his voice betrayed the truth beneath. Emma's brow furrowed slightly, worry flickering in her eyes. She leaned in, lowering her voice further. "Ignore them? They don't matter?" He met her gaze firmly, frustration simmering dangerously within him. "Easy for you to say. This is your world, Emma. Clearly, I don't fit in." She flinched slightly, hurt and surprise flashing across her features. "Jack, he shook his head gently, stepping back slightly. "I just need some air." Without waiting for her response, Jack turned abruptly, weaving through the elegant crowd toward the expansive balcony overlooking the city skyline. As he stepped into the crisp night air, he took a deep, steadying breath, gripping the balcony railings tightly. Behind him, the glittering party continued, oblivious to the storm brewing in his heart. Jack stared out over the distant lights, fighting the heavy realization settling deep within him. Maybe some worlds were just too different to bridge, no matter how desperately you wanted them to merge. Jack stood quietly in the shadows near the balcony, trying to gather his thoughts and calm the frustration burning within him. He loosened his tie slightly, desperate to ease the suffocating feeling tightening his chest. From behind him, laughter echoed softly, mingling with the gentle clinking of champagne glasses. He didn't intend to eavesdrop, but their conversation drifted effortlessly toward him, each word sharp and painfully clear. "Honestly, what does Emma see in him? A mechanic, for heaven's sake," a woman's voice drawled disdainfully, laced with barely disguised amusement. Another voice, familiar, biting, joined in mockingly. "She's always been charitable, hasn't she? I suppose rescuing strays must be her latest cause." Jack's jaw clenched tightly, humiliation flaring hot beneath his skin. Anger surged, yet he stood frozen, listening unwillingly as their whispers grew more cutting. "He's clearly taking advantage of her loneliness," another chimed in, "probably hoping for a big payday." "Poor Emma," the first woman sighed dramatically. "Can't she see how pathetic it looks?" Jack's fists curled, nails biting sharply into his palms. Their words dug deeply, twisting cruelly at insecurities he'd fought desperately to silence. His heart pounded in his ears, shame and rage mixing dangerously. Without thinking, he turned sharply away from the balcony, nearly colliding with Emma as she stepped toward him, her eyes immediately registering his distress. "Jack, what's wrong?" Emma asked quietly, concern etched vividly across her face. He hesitated, emotion surging violently within him. His gaze flickered beyond her shoulder, seeing her so-called friends watching, whispers falling silent as they observed the unfolding scene with morbid curiosity. Jack swallowed painfully, hurt and frustration coiling tightly in his chest, finally unable to suppress the storm brewing within. "I heard them," he muttered harshly, voice low and tight with controlled anger. "Your friends, talking about me, laughing at me, and you expect me to pretend everything's fine?" Emma's eyes widened, shock and distress darkening her expression. She reached for him instinctively, voice trembling softly, desperate to reassure. "Jack, don't listen to them." Ah! He stepped back abruptly, pain flaring sharply in his eyes. "How can I not? They're your friends, Emma. This is your world, and clearly I don't belong here." Her gaze filled with hurt, pleading softly. "Jack, that's not true. I don't care what they say. I chose you." "Did you?" he challenged bitterly, voice edged with raw vulnerability. "Because it sure seems like everyone here thinks I'm just some pathetic charity case. And maybe they're right." Emma flinched, visibly stricken. "Jack, please." He cut her off, shaking his head sharply, exhaustion heavy in his voice. "I can't pretend this isn't hurting me, or Lily. We don't fit in your world, Emma. Maybe we never will." Before she could respond, Jack turned swiftly, pushing through the curious crowd, now openly staring, humiliation clawing fiercely at his chest. Emma stood frozen behind him, eyes glistening with unshed tears, helplessness tightening her throat. Jack rushed outside, inhaling sharply as the cool night air filled his lungs. Tears burned his eyes, blurring the city lights around him. Every painful whisper, every judgmental gaze echoed relentlessly in his mind. He knew Emma was sincere, but sincerity alone couldn't protect Lily from the cruelty and contempt of Emma's world. With a heavy, aching heart, Jack climbed into his old, battered truck, leaving the glittering gala and Emma behind, wondering bitterly if love was ever truly enough. Emma stood silently at the edge of the ballroom, the shimmering lights and elegant laughter around her now a meaningless blur. Her heart hammered painfully, still echoing the raw hurt in Jack's eyes as he had walked away. She replayed every word he'd spoken, each filled with a truth she'd been unwilling to fully acknowledge until now. She glanced around at the familiar faces, friends she'd known for years, influential colleagues, people whose respect she'd spent a lifetime carefully cultivating. Yet tonight, all she saw in their polished smiles was emptiness. Their superficial conversations, their thinly veiled judgments, suddenly felt suffocating, oppressive. How had she never seen it before? Emma stepped quietly onto the balcony where Jack had stood only moments before, her gaze drifting toward the distant lights of the city. Her stomach twisted painfully as she remembered the sincerity in his voice, the vulnerability he'd shown when he'd admitted his fears. Jack wasn't like anyone she'd ever known. He was real, genuine, and she'd allowed her world to wound him deeply. Tears stung her eyes as she leaned against the balcony railing, suddenly feeling painfully alone in a crowd she'd once called her own. Emma's mind drifted to the countless relationships she'd pursued over the years, each more superficial than the last. Men who valued her wealth more than her heart, friends who praised her achievements but never saw beyond the polished image she'd carefully constructed. With painful clarity, Emma realized how hollow her life had become, filled with endless possessions but lacking genuine connection. Jack had entered her world unexpectedly, disrupting the carefully built facade she'd mistaken for happiness. He'd brought honesty, sincerity, kindness, qualities so rare in her privileged circles they seemed almost mythical. In his eyes, Emma had glimpsed the kind of love she'd secretly longed for but never dared believe could truly exist, a love not built on status or convenience but authenticity and mutual respect. Yet she'd allowed her shallow circle to belittle him, to push him away. Emma's heart clenched tightly, guilt twisting sharply within her chest. She realized with aching clarity how profoundly wrong she had been, not about Jack, but about herself and her priorities. She had allowed meaningless whispers to overshadow something genuinely precious. Determination hardened within her, chasing away lingering doubts. Emma knew she couldn't lose Jack, not now, not like this. Her breath steadied, her eyes firming with resolve. She would no longer be controlled by the empty expectations of those around her. True happiness lay beyond their superficial world, within the quiet dignity and honesty Jack offered freely. Emma turned from the balcony, walking confidently back into the ballroom. This time, the whispers, the curious stares, the subtle judgments meant nothing. Her mind was made up. She'd fight for Jack, for Lily, for the future she now knew clearly she desperately wanted. Because in Jack's honest gaze and gentle heart, Emma had finally discovered something worth fighting for: real, authentic love. And she vowed silently, fiercely, to never let it slip away again. Jack sat alone on the faded living room couch, the muted glow of the evening sun filtering through the worn curtains. He stared numbly at Lily's crayons scattered across the coffee table, the quiet ticking of the clock only amplifying the emptiness that filled the room. Each tick reminded him of Emma, the hurt etched deeply in her expression, the bitter sting of their words left unresolved. A soft knock at the door jolted him from his thoughts. His heart tightened anxiously, and for a moment he considered not answering, afraid of facing another wave of pain. But the gentle knock persisted, patient yet insistent. Reluctantly he rose and opened the door, his breath catching at the sight of Emma, standing hesitantly on his doorstep, her expression open, vulnerable, stripped of all defenses. "Jack," she said softly, her voice trembling slightly, "can I please come in?" He hesitated briefly, warring emotions tightening his chest, before stepping aside quietly. She entered slowly, her eyes immediately absorbing the modest room, the faded couch, the crayon-strewn coffee table, the walls adorned with Lily's vibrant drawings. Her gaze softened visibly, and Jack watched her carefully, uncertain of her intentions, yet unable to deny the genuine sincerity radiating from her presence. "I needed to see you," Emma began gently, voice edged with quiet urgency, "to apologize for everything, for my friends, my world, for hurting you." Jack's jaw tightened, guarded emotions flickering in his eyes. "Emma." "Please," she whispered urgently, desperation brightening her eyes. "Let me say this. You deserve to hear it." He nodded silently, crossing his arms protectively as she continued, her voice trembling softly, vulnerable as he'd never seen her before. "I've spent my life surrounded by people who cared more about my status and wealth than who I truly am," she admitted painfully, eyes glistening softly. "They flatter me, pretend to care. But deep down, I've always known it wasn't real. And I accepted it, convinced myself it was enough, because genuine love, honest connection, felt impossible." Jack watched quietly, his heart aching at the raw loneliness etched in her expression, her confession resonating deeply within him. Emma stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Then you walked into my life. Someone who saw me, not the CEO, not the millionaire, just Emma. Your honesty, your kindness, your integrity, they showed me what real love looks like. And it terrifies me to think I could lose that now because of my mistakes." Jack's expression softened as he saw tears shimmering gently in her eyes, her vulnerability unmasked and deeply moving. His defenses wavered, emotions surging powerfully within him. "Emma," he murmured quietly, voice heavy with emotion, "I don't know if our worlds can ever truly blend without someone getting hurt. Lily is my life, and I have to protect her." "I know," she breathed gently, voice breaking softly. "I'd never ask you to risk her happiness for me. But please, don't give up on us yet. Let me prove I can protect you both." He exhaled slowly, emotions swirling painfully inside him. Emma stood before him, stripped of pretenses, humbled, honest. In that moment he finally saw the loneliness she'd carried, the ache for genuine connection. He felt his heart soften, barriers cracking open. Stepping forward, he took her hands gently, warmth spreading through his touch. "Emma, if we're going to do this, we have to be honest. No more hiding from the truth, no more running." Relief flooded her expression, hopeful tears slipping silently down her cheeks. "No more hiding, I promise." Jack pulled her gently into his embrace, holding her close, feeling their worlds slowly, tentatively merge again. He knew there would be challenges ahead, but tonight, Emma's honest vulnerability had given him hope. The strength to believe that maybe, just maybe, Their love was strong enough to withstand anything. In the weeks following Emma's heartfelt visit, Jack and Emma quietly began building their relationship far from prying eyes, away from the glaring lights and whispering gossip of Emma's glamorous world. They chose quiet moments instead, long walks through quiet parks in the soft twilight, cups of coffee shared in hidden cozy cafes. Each stolen hour brought them closer, gently weaving a bond made strong by trust and authenticity rather than grand gestures or public declarations. Jack found himself looking forward to their simple evenings, where Emma could leave behind her designer dresses for casual jeans and cozy sweaters, where their conversations flowed freely without fear of judgment or critique. It was during these quiet times that Jack truly saw Emma's heart, the dreams she'd buried under the weight of expectations, the fears she'd hidden behind carefully curated smiles. One crisp autumn evening, they sat together on an old wooden bench beneath trees shedding golden leaves, the cool breeze rustling gently around them. Emma leaned comfortably against Jack's shoulder, her eyes gazing thoughtfully toward the fading sun. "I've never had anything like this before," Emma confessed softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Just being here with you, no pretense, no judgment. It feels so real." Jack's fingers tightened gently around her hand, his voice quiet but filled with warmth. "That's because it is real, Emma. This, you and me, it doesn't need approval or validation from anyone else." She glanced up at him, vulnerability shimmering openly in her eyes. "Do you think it's enough? Just us? Without the glamour and approval of my world?" Jack turned toward her slowly, his gaze sincere, earnest. "It's more than enough. Your world has everything, money, status, luxury, but it can't give you happiness. Only love and honesty can do that." Emma exhaled slowly, absorbing his words deeply, allowing them to settle into her heart. Her fingers gently traced circles on the back of his hand, a quiet gesture of trust. "I think I'm finally beginning to understand that." Jack smiled softly, lifting her chin gently until their eyes met. "Then trust this. Trust us. We don't need anyone's permission to be happy." A quiet warmth spread through Emma, chasing away lingering shadows of doubt. In Jack's steady gaze, she found the reassurance she'd been searching for, the quiet certainty she desperately needed. He'd never cared about her money, her status, or the endless privileges attached to her name. Instead, Jack had seen past it all, straight into the lonely heart she'd kept hidden for far too long. "I do trust you," Emma whispered quietly, sincerity brightening her eyes, "more than I've ever trusted anyone." Jack leaned forward, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead, his voice soft and steady. "Then let's keep building this slowly, carefully, away from everyone who can't see who we really are. Just you, me, and Lily." Emma sighed softly, warmth blossoming powerfully in her chest at his quiet mention of Lily, understanding how deeply Jack's daughter was woven into their budding relationship. "I'd like that," she murmured tenderly. As evening shadows lengthened, wrapping around them protectively, Jack and Emma sat in comfortable silence, their fingers intertwined, hearts quietly knitting closer. They knew the world beyond their private moments would still test them, challenge their trust. But here, sheltered beneath the autumn trees, they found the strength they needed to face anything together. Because trust wasn't built through grand gestures or public approval. It grew quietly, privately, in moments just like these. Two hearts, quietly choosing each other, one gentle step at a time. Sunlight poured gently through the thin curtains of Jack's modest living room, illuminating Emma as she knelt beside Lily on the soft, worn carpet. Crayons and paper were spread out around them, their laughter echoing warmly through the small space. Jack leaned quietly against the kitchen doorway, a soft smile tugging at his lips as he watched Emma, who was usually so poised, so polished, coloring enthusiastically beside his daughter, her eyes bright and free. Lily carefully handed Emma a purple crayon, giggling softly. "Purple's Daddy's favorite color," she confided seriously, her small voice filled with importance. Emma glanced up at Jack, eyes dancing playfully. "Is that so? I'll have to remember that." Jack chuckled softly, warmth spreading through his chest. He moved toward them, sitting cross-legged on the floor and joining their comfortable circle. Lily immediately shifted closer, proudly holding up her drawing for inspection. "Look, Daddy, it's us," Lily announced, pointing carefully to each scribbled figure. "You, me, and Emma at the park. Do you like it?" Jack felt a quiet tenderness ache gently inside his heart, deeply moved by the innocent hope shining from Lily's eyes. "I love it, sweetheart. It's perfect." Emma watched their gentle exchange quietly, absorbing the simple beauty of the moment, feeling her own heart expand. She realized suddenly, achingly, that she'd missed so many ordinary joys growing up, moments just like these. Her childhood had been filled with tutors, strict schedules, endless demands for perfection. There had been no time for lazy weekends, messy coloring sessions, or spontaneous laughter. She exhaled softly, surprising herself by speaking the truth aloud. "You're very lucky, Lily, to have a dad who loves you so much. I didn't have many days like this growing up." Jack's gaze softened as he saw the quiet longing in Emma's expression. "It's never too late to start having days like this," he said gently, voice warm with understanding. Emma smiled shyly, hope brightening her eyes. "I'm starting to see that." After lunch, the three of them strolled hand in hand to the nearby park, the gentle breeze rustling softly through the golden autumn leaves. Emma felt a deep sense of peace she'd never known before, walking slowly beside Jack as Lily skipped joyfully ahead, pausing occasionally to gather leaves or admire bright wildflowers. They played on swings and climbed on slides, their laughter mingling effortlessly with the gentle sounds of other families enjoying the afternoon sun. Emma pushed Lily gently on the swing, her heart swelling with a tenderness that took her by surprise. Each joyful squeal from the little girl felt like a quiet gift, something precious she'd never imagined she would experience herself. Later, as they shared cones from the ice cream vendor, Lily happily dripping chocolate down her chin, Jack met Emma's gaze, gratitude clear in his quiet smile. "Thank you," he said softly, voice thick with sincerity, "for being here, for wanting to be part of this." Emma reached out, gently taking his hand in hers. "Thank you for letting me." As they slowly walked home beneath the setting sun, Lily's small hand clasped tightly between theirs, Emma felt a powerful clarity settle inside her. True happiness wasn't about wealth or glamour. It was found right here, in these quiet moments, surrounded by laughter, love, and family. Emma's heart felt quietly full, certain now that no matter how difficult their journey might become, the joy of these ordinary moments was something worth fighting for. The evening had settled gently over the quiet neighborhood, stars beginning to emerge through the fading light. Jack sat beside Emma, on the small, weathered porch swing outside his home, its soft creaking mixing with the soothing whispers of the night breeze. They'd tucked Lily safely into bed, her soft breathing now audible through the open window behind them. In this calm twilight hour, Jack felt a heavy weight pressing on his heart, urging him toward honesty, even if it meant opening wounds he usually kept buried deep. Emma sensed his tension immediately, gently laying a reassuring hand on his arm. "Jack," she said softly, her voice tender with concern, "whatever it is, you can talk to me." Jack exhaled shakily, gathering his thoughts. Finally he spoke, his voice low and filled with quiet pain. "I've been carrying something for a long time, Emma. Something I've never truly talked about, not even with Lily." Emma squeezed his arm gently, silently encouraging him to continue. He swallowed thickly, staring down at his hands clasped tightly in his lap. "Lily's mother, Sarah, we were just kids when we fell in love, reckless and hopeful. Thinking love alone would be enough to conquer anything, he said, a bitter note of regret entering his voice. When Lily was born, things were tough, but we promised we'd face everything together. His voice broke slightly, his eyes distant as memories flooded his mind. Emma remained quiet, listening intently, sensing the depth of his pain. But Sarah got sick, really sick, Jack continued softly, anguish heavy in every word. She fought so hard, but we lost her anyway. And suddenly, it was just me and Lily, just me trying to fill the enormous hole Sarah left behind. I had no idea how to be enough for my daughter. Jack's eyes filled with unshed tears, reflecting the quiet struggle he'd carried silently for years. I constantly worried I was letting Lily down, failing to be the father she deserved. There were so many nights when the bills piled up, and I had no idea how I'd keep a roof over our heads. The fear of failing Lily, it never leaves me, Emma. Emma's heart tightened painfully, deeply moved by the raw honesty pouring from Jack's words. She slid closer, gently wrapping an arm around him, offering warmth and silent strength. "Jack, you're an amazing father," she whispered earnestly. "Anyone can see how much Lily adores you, how safe and loved you make her feel." He shook his head gently, vulnerability shining starkly in his eyes. "But what if it's not enough? Lily deserves the world, and sometimes I feel like I can't even give her half of that." Emma cupped his cheek softly, urging him to look at her directly. "Jack, Lily doesn't need wealth or luxury to be happy. She needs your love, your strength, your kindness, all the things you've given her every single day. You've already given her the world." Jack searched Emma's eyes desperately, seeking reassurance, the quiet validation he'd longed for so deeply. And in her gentle gaze, he finally found it, a silent promise, a powerful truth. Emma saw him exactly as he was, a devoted father, a good man, someone worthy of love. Slowly, he released the breath he'd been holding, allowing the warmth of Emma's words to ease the ache inside him. He leaned into her gentle embrace, feeling her steady heartbeat against his own. "Thank you, Emma," Jack whispered softly, vulnerability and gratitude blending tenderly in his voice. She tightened her hold gently, whispering back with quiet certainty, "You never have to carry this alone again. I'm here, with you, with Lily, always." And for the first time in years, Jack believed her completely, allowing himself to trust that he was finally enough, exactly as he was. Jack stood quietly in Emma's sleek, spacious office at Kingsley Enterprises, the towering glass windows behind her framing the city skyline in a golden afternoon glow. He shifted awkwardly in his worn boots, feeling distinctly out of place in the luxurious surroundings. Emma, sensing his unease, offered a reassuring smile, her eyes filled with gentle encouragement. "I've been thinking about this for weeks," Emma began softly, her voice warm and sincere. She leaned against the polished desk, regarding Jack earnestly. "You're talented, Jack, hardworking, dedicated. I've watched you solve problems effortlessly, manage difficult situations with ease. You deserve so much more than you have right now." Jack's brow furrowed slightly, uncertainty tightening his chest. "Emma, I appreciate what you're trying to say, but—" She lifted a hand gently, pausing him with a pleading look. "Hear me out, please. I'm offering you a management role here at Kingsley Enterprises. I want someone like you, someone honest, genuine, someone I can truly trust, working alongside me." Jack stared at her silently, shock and confusion warring openly in his eyes. His mind raced with doubts and insecurities, instincts warning him loudly that this was dangerous ground. "Emma, you know I'm grateful, but your company, your world, it's so different from mine. Are you sure this is the right decision?" She stepped forward carefully, sincerity deepening her voice. "Jack, you're the most authentic person I've ever met. You've never cared about wealth or prestige, only doing the right thing. That's exactly what Kingsley Enterprises needs. Exactly what I need. Someone who isn't blinded by money. Someone who genuinely cares about people. Jack swallowed thickly, heart pounding anxiously as he struggled internally. Her offer was tempting, not because of the money or status, but because of the stability and opportunity it could provide for Lily's future. But memories of the whispers at the gala, the harsh judgments of Emma's world, haunted him, reminding him bitterly of the cost he might pay. "Emma," he said gently, voice heavy with hesitation, "I appreciate your faith in me. But the people in your world, they've already made it clear they think I'm just using you. If I take this job, it'll only confirm their suspicions. I don't want you hurt because of me." Emma's eyes flashed passionately, stepping closer with fierce determination. "I don't care what anyone else thinks, Jack. I know you, your honesty, your integrity. The opinions of shallow people don't matter. I want you here because you deserve this opportunity." Jack exhaled slowly, anxiety pressing heavily against his chest. He turned toward the windows, looking out over the city, weighing Emma's sincere offer against the relentless doubts within him. Could he truly step into her world, risking everything he'd fought to build for Lily's safety? He glanced back at Emma, heart aching softly, as he saw the vulnerability and hope shimmering gently in her eyes. "Emma, this is a huge step. I need time to think it over, carefully." Emma nodded immediately, understanding clear in her expression, though disappointment briefly flickered in her gaze. "Of course, Jack. Take all the time you need. But please, promise me you'll consider it seriously, not for me, but for you and Lily." Jack met her eyes firmly, sincerity radiating clearly in his gaze. "I promise." Emma stepped closer, gently taking his hands in hers, her warmth reassuring, yet quietly pleading. "Whatever you decide, I'll support you fully. But know that I'm offering this because I believe in you, in us." Jack squeezed her hands gently, gratitude and warmth easing the tension in his chest slightly. And though doubt still lingered within him, he knew Emma's belief in him was sincere, powerful, and deeply meaningful. Maybe, just maybe, stepping into Emma's world could finally mean creating the life he'd always dreamed of for Lily, and perhaps for himself, too. Jack sat quietly on the edge of Lily's small bed, carefully tucking her favorite stuffed bunny beneath her arm. The dim glow from her bedside lamp illuminated her sleepy face, eyes filled with innocent curiosity. She gazed up at him thoughtfully, sensing his lingering uncertainty even as she yawned softly. "Daddy?" Lily asked gently, her small voice bright and full of trust. "Is something bothering you?" Jack hesitated briefly, brushing her soft hair gently away from her eyes. He exhaled slowly, knowing he couldn't hide anything from her perceptive heart. "Emma offered me a job, a very important job at her company. It could change a lot for us, Lily, but I'm worried it might be too different." Lily tilted her head thoughtfully, her bright eyes reflecting wisdom far beyond her years. "Do you like Emma's job?" Jack smiled softly, his chest tight with pride and warmth at her simple clarity. "I do, sweetheart, but it's complicated. If I take this job, some people might think I'm just using Emma, that I don't really belong there." Lily frowned gently, her small fingers gripping his hand tightly. "But Emma believes in you, right?" He nodded slowly, warmth blooming in his chest as he remembered the fierce sincerity in Emma's eyes. "Yes, she does." "Then maybe that's all that matters," Lily whispered quietly, eyes wide and earnest. "You always tell me that if someone believes in you, you can do anything, and Emma believes in us both. So maybe it's okay to trust her, Daddy." Jack's heart clenched painfully with gratitude, moved deeply by Lily's innocent wisdom. Her simple words resonated powerfully, cutting through his fears and doubts, urging him toward the hope he'd been afraid to fully embrace. He pulled her gently into his arms, holding her tightly, emotion thickening his voice. "When did you become so smart?" Lily giggled softly against his chest, whispering back playfully, "I learned it from you." Later that evening, after tucking Lily in and watching her drift peacefully to sleep, Jack stood silently in his kitchen, phone held tightly in his hand. He stared at Emma's number, heart pounding anxiously, yet certain of the decision he'd finally made. He dialed quickly, anxiety easing slightly as he heard Emma's voice come softly through the line. "Jack?" Emma asked, hopeful anticipation clear in her tone. Jack exhaled slowly, courage steadying his voice. "Emma, I thought about your offer, and if you still think I can make a difference, I'd like to accept." He heard her sharp intake of breath, felt her relief and excitement ripple warmly through his chest. "Jack, I meant every word. I believe in you completely. You won't regret this. I promise." He smiled softly into the phone, heart finally steady, voice filled with quiet certainty. "I believe you, Emma. And it's not just about the job. It's about us, our future." Emma's voice softened beautifully, tenderness shining through each word. "Our future. I like the sound of that." As they ended the call, Jack stood quietly in the gentle silence of the kitchen, feeling a profound sense of hope settle within him. Taking Emma's offer wasn't merely about stability or career. It was about trusting the woman who'd walked unexpectedly into their lives and changed everything. It was about choosing to step bravely into a world that frightened him, because Lily believed in him, and Emma believed in them both. Tonight was a turning point, not just for his career, but for his heart. He'd finally allowed himself to fully embrace the possibility of true happiness, and for the first time in years, Jack felt completely ready to move forward. Jack stood quietly outside the polished glass doors of Kingsley Enterprises, his heart hammering anxiously beneath the crisp white shirt Emma had bought him for his first day. Taking a deep, steadying breath, he stepped inside, immediately aware of curious eyes flicking toward him, whispers dying down abruptly as he walked past. He forced a polite smile, but tension knotted tightly in his chest, reminding him he was stepping onto uncertain ground. At the morning briefing, Emma warmly introduced him to the assembled employees, clearly proud yet careful to emphasize his abilities and integrity. Still, Jack felt the uneasy skepticism behind the polite applause, saw quiet suspicion lingering in narrowed eyes and whispered conversations. His skin prickled uncomfortably, keenly aware that many saw him simply as Emma's questionable choice, a beneficiary of nepotism rather than a deserving colleague. Throughout the morning, Jack immersed himself deeply in the tasks at hand, determined to prove himself through quiet competence and genuine effort. Yet, every time he offered input during team discussions, he noticed dismissive glances exchanged between colleagues. Their skepticism wore on him, building quiet tension in his shoulders. During lunch break, Jack overheard snippets of conversation from a nearby group, their voices lowered yet deliberately audible. "Do you really think he's qualified?" a man scoffed quietly. "He's here because he's dating Emma, plain and simple." "It's obvious nepotism," another agreed disdainfully. "She's usually smarter than this." Jack's jaw tightened painfully, humiliation burning beneath his skin. Just as his resolve began to waver, he felt a gentle touch on his shoulder. Turning, he met Emma's concerned eyes, compassion clear in her steady gaze. "Jack, don't listen to them," Emma whispered firmly, eyes bright with quiet conviction. "I chose you because you're exactly what this company needs, someone who's genuine, hardworking, and capable. I know you can handle this, and I'm here beside you every step of the way." Jack exhaled shakily, absorbing her unwavering support. He nodded slowly, gathering strength from her belief. "Thank you, Emma. Your trust means everything." That afternoon, during a crucial team meeting, tension finally boiled over. As Jack suggested a new process to streamline operations, a senior manager named Greg spoke up sharply, skepticism evident in his tone. "With all due respect," Greg challenged openly, "you've barely been here a day. Forgive me if we find your sudden input a little suspect, given your connection." An uneasy silence settled heavily over the room, all eyes watching carefully, waiting. Jack swallowed hard, meeting Greg's gaze squarely, quiet dignity firming his voice. "I understand your concern," Jack began carefully, sincerity clear in his tone. "I know exactly how it looks, but I didn't accept this job lightly. I'm here to earn your trust, not expect it. My relationship with Emma didn't give me shortcuts. It gave me a responsibility to prove I belong here, to each of you, every single day." Jack's honesty hung powerfully in the tense silence. Slowly, he saw quiet approval flicker across several faces, respect beginning to emerge. Emma, standing silently at the back of the room, felt pride swelling deeply within her, moved profoundly by Jack's integrity and courage. After the meeting, Emma approached him privately, her eyes glowing warmly with admiration. "You were amazing in there," she whispered, voice filled with pride. Jack offered a humble, quiet smile. "I just spoke the truth." She stepped closer, gently taking his hands, her voice earnest and unwavering. "And that's exactly why I believe in you, Jack. Your honesty, your courage, they're why you belong here. Never forget that." As Jack looked into Emma's sincere eyes, he felt a quiet peace settle within him. Their relationship had been tested again, this time publicly, painfully. But once more, Emma had chosen him openly, fearlessly, proving that their bond was unbreakable. Despite the challenges ahead, Jack knew with certainty that together they could overcome anything, because Emma's unwavering support and his quiet determination had already begun forging a path toward trust, and a future neither had ever dared dream possible. Jack arrived early each morning, quietly immersing himself in every detail of his new responsibilities. He carefully studied reports, listened attentively in meetings, and volunteered for tasks no one else wanted, determined to prove himself through hard work alone. Despite Emma's unwavering support, he knew that true acceptance could only come from the respect he earned independently. Over the following weeks, he endured the skeptical glances and whispers with quiet dignity, allowing his actions to speak louder than any defense he might have offered. When a critical project faced an unexpected crisis, suppliers falling through at the last minute, Jack stayed late into the night, meticulously arranging alternate solutions, coordinating tirelessly until the problem was resolved. Emma watched silently from her office doorway, pride swelling deeply within her as she observed his quiet determination and unwavering integrity. Gradually, the tide began to shift. Colleagues who had once questioned his qualifications noticed the genuine humility with which Jack approached his work, his earnest willingness to listen and learn. His practical solutions and quiet perseverance began resonating deeply, breaking down initial barriers and softening skepticism. One evening, as Jack finished compiling a crucial report, he looked up in surprise to find Greg, the manager who had openly challenged him previously, standing hesitantly by his desk. Jack leaned back carefully, cautious but open. Greg cleared his throat awkwardly, embarrassment coloring his face slightly. "Jack," Greg began, voice gruff but genuine, "I wanted to apologize. I judged you unfairly at first, assumed you were just here because of Emma. But you've proven me wrong. Your dedication, it's real. You've earned my respect." Jack's chest tightened softly with quiet gratitude, recognizing the courage it took Greg to admit his mistake openly. He rose slowly, extending a hand firmly, sincerity clear in his eyes. "Thanks, Greg. I appreciate that." Greg shook his hand warmly, a quiet understanding passing silently between them. From that moment forward, Jack sensed a change, not only in Greg, but in the entire office dynamic. Colleagues began approaching him willingly for advice, recognizing the genuine effort he brought daily, understanding that his commitment had nothing to do with Emma's influence and everything to do with his character. One afternoon, as Jack quietly organized his workspace, Emma approached softly, pride shining clearly in her eyes. "You've done something amazing here, Jack," she said warmly, voice filled with gentle admiration. He smiled quietly, humility coloring his expression. "I just showed up, Emma. I worked hard and stayed honest. Everything else fell into place because people saw I wasn't here to take advantage of anything." Emma stepped closer, gently touching his arm, warmth radiating deeply from her gaze. "Exactly. You showed them the real Jack, someone strong, humble, and trustworthy, someone I've always believed in." Jack felt quiet confidence grow steadily within him, her words resonating powerfully. The initial fears and insecurities he'd carried now felt distant, replaced by newfound assurance, rooted deeply in the genuine respect he'd earned. Emma's unwavering support had anchored him, but it was his own integrity and dedication that had finally convinced the world around him. Later that evening, as he drove home beneath the fading twilight, Jack reflected quietly on his journey, gratitude swelling gently within his chest. The whispers and judgmental stares had faded, replaced by quiet respect and genuine camaraderie. And though he remained deeply grateful to Emma for believing in him first, he finally recognized his value beyond her influence. He'd stepped bravely into her world, but it was his honesty, his work ethic, his unwavering integrity that had allowed him to claim his place within it. And for the first time in his life, Jack finally knew without question that he belonged exactly where he was, no matter how different their worlds had once seemed. The city skyline glowed softly through the expansive windows of Emma's penthouse apartment, painting the room with gentle golden light as dusk settled quietly around them. Jack stood near the window, his eyes lost in the distant horizon, thoughts heavy and contemplative. Emma moved closer to him, sensing the quiet turbulence in his silence, her own heart pounding nervously beneath her chest. "Jack," she began softly, voice barely louder than a whisper, vulnerable in its raw sincerity, "can we talk about something?" He turned slowly, catching the subtle tremble in her voice. Her eyes were wide, earnest, reflecting quiet uncertainty, something rare for Emma, whose confidence usually carried her so effortlessly through life. "What is it?" Jack asked gently, stepping toward her, concern darkening his gaze. Emma drew in a slow, steadying breath, the truth weighing heavily inside her chest. "I've spent my entire life in control, Jack, of my company, my image, my emotions. Everything carefully measured, calculated. But with you, I feel completely out of control, and that terrifies me." Jack's brow furrowed slightly, confusion blending gently with his quiet tenderness. "Emma, you don't have to be afraid. I'm here, right beside you." She shook her head softly, vulnerability shimmering in her eyes. "That's exactly why I'm scared. I've never needed anyone like this, never felt so deeply about someone that losing them feels unbearable. But with you, Jack, everything's different. You've completely changed my life. You've shown me a kind of love I didn't think was real, and now I'm terrified of losing it, losing you." Jack stepped closer, gently cupping her face, warmth radiating clearly from his touch. His voice softened, deep with sincerity and quiet emotion. "Emma, I'm not going anywhere. I chose you, exactly as you chose me. Everything we've built together is real, and nothing could ever make me walk away from that." Emma searched his eyes desperately, heart beating anxiously. "But what if—" He cut her off softly, thumb gently brushing her cheek. "There are no what-ifs strong enough to take me from your side. I fell in love with you, not your money, not your world, but your heart, your courage, your kindness, your vulnerability. Losing you scares me too, Emma. But I'm choosing trust, choosing you, every single day." Tears glistened gently in Emma's eyes, relief and joy softening her tense expression. She leaned into Jack's embrace, surrendering quietly to the security and warmth of his arms around her. "I love you, Jack," she whispered tenderly, voice trembling softly, the words both powerful and gentle. "I love you more deeply than I ever imagined possible. You've given me a happiness that feels so fragile, so precious. I don't ever want to lose it." Jack tightened his embrace, breathing softly against her hair, emotion thickening his voice. "And I love you, Emma. I never thought I'd find someone again, someone who could see me, accept me, and love me as you have. But I have you, and I promise you, nothing will ever change that." Emma lifted her head slowly, eyes bright with gentle tears, hope blooming deeply within her heart. Jack kissed her softly, the quiet intensity of their embrace sealing the truth they'd both confessed openly. Their love, genuine and powerful, now stronger than fear. As the city lights brightened beyond the window, Jack and Emma stood silently together, their mutual commitment solidified by the raw honesty they'd bravely shared. They both knew challenges would continue testing their bond, but tonight their shared vulnerability had only deepened the powerful love anchoring them. Together, they'd face whatever came next, certain now that their hearts had chosen wisely, each other. The afternoon sun streamed gently through the living room window, filling the small space with a comforting golden warmth. Emma sat cross-legged on the soft, worn carpet, quietly helping Lily with her latest art project, their laughter weaving a gentle harmony throughout the modest apartment. Jack watched silently from the kitchen doorway, his heart swelling with quiet joy as he observed the bond that had grown so beautifully between the two most important people in his life. Lily suddenly paused, thoughtful, eyes shining brightly as an idea lit up her small face. Without explanation, she jumped up excitedly, her little footsteps echoing down the hallway toward her bedroom. Emma glanced curiously toward Jack, who smiled softly, shrugging gently. He was just as unsure about Lily's sudden inspiration. Moments later, Lily returned, clutching something small and delicate between her hands, eyes bright with excitement and shy vulnerability. She approached Emma slowly, cheeks flushed gently, holding out her hands carefully, as if presenting something deeply precious. "I made something for you," Lily said softly, voice shy but earnest, eyes wide and hopeful. "It's for you to keep forever." Emma carefully took the delicate object from Lily's tiny hands, breath catching softly as she studied it closely. A small handmade bracelet lay gently in her palm, colorful beads strung meticulously together, a tiny silver charm shaped like a heart dangling tenderly in the center. Emma's eyes filled with quiet tears, touched profoundly by Lily's simple gesture. "Lily, it's beautiful," she whispered gently, voice thick with genuine emotion. "Thank you so much." Lily smiled shyly, stepping closer, small fingers gently touching Emma's hand. "Daddy always says when you love someone, you should give them something special. I wanted you to know that you're special to me." Emma swallowed thickly, moved deeply by the child's innocent sincerity, heart swelling gently with profound gratitude. Her voice shook softly, tenderness filling every word. "You're special to me too, Lily, more special than I could ever tell you." Jack quietly moved closer, heart overwhelmed by the powerful moment unfolding before him. He knelt gently beside Emma, eyes meeting hers with quiet gratitude and warmth. Lily stepped forward, wrapping her small arms carefully around both Emma and Jack, pulling them into an earnest, heartfelt embrace. Emma held Lily close, heart aching gently with love, her voice whispering softly, emotionally. "This bracelet means everything to me, Lily. I'll wear it always so I remember how lucky I am to have you." Lily's small voice whispered gently against Emma's shoulder, innocent but certain. "We're lucky too, Daddy and me. We're so lucky you found us." Jack felt quiet tears gather softly in his eyes, deeply moved by Lily's innocent acceptance, her simple, heartfelt gesture solidifying Emma's place within their family. He gently tightened his embrace around both Lily and Emma, warmth spreading deeply through his chest. "Lily's right," Jack murmured gently, voice thick with emotion. "We are lucky you found us, Emma, and we're never letting you go." Emma looked into Jack's sincere eyes, feeling a deep peace finally settle within her heart. This moment, this quiet acceptance from Lily. It meant more than any wealth or status ever could. It was pure, unconditional love, a family she'd longed for without knowing it. Quietly, gently, Emma clasped the small bracelet around her wrist, heart filling deeply with gratitude. She knew challenges would come, but now, wearing Lily's precious gift, she felt certain, finally completely certain, that they could face anything, together as a family, bound forever by simple gestures of acceptance and genuine love. Emma stood poised behind the polished podium, the room filled with journalists, photographers, and influential figures from the city's elite. Cameras flashed softly, capturing every expression, every subtle gesture. Her heart thudded anxiously beneath the composed exterior she wore carefully, but deep inside she felt a quiet, powerful determination. Today was about more than responding to critics. It was about finally speaking the truth she had quietly protected for far too long. "Thank you all for coming," Emma began calmly, voice steady despite the quiet tremble inside her chest. "I called this conference today to address recent comments and criticisms regarding my personal life, particularly concerning Jack Carter." The room quieted instantly, a tense, expectant hush settling heavily over the gathered crowd. Emma glanced toward the side of the stage, finding Jack's steady gaze. He gave her a subtle, reassuring nod, gentle encouragement radiating clearly from his eyes. Gathering strength, she continued, "I'm fully aware that Jack and I come from very different worlds," she admitted honestly, sincerity clear in every careful word. "My background is privileged, often public. Jack's is modest, hardworking, quiet. Many have labeled him unfairly, accusing him of taking advantage, questioning his integrity. I stand before you today to state clearly and unequivocally, nothing could be further from the truth." She paused briefly, allowing the strength of her conviction to resonate deeply throughout the silent room. Taking a slow breath, Emma let her voice soften, vulnerability slipping gently through her carefully maintained composure. "Before meeting Jack, my life was defined by wealth, influence, and constant expectation. But beneath all the privilege, I felt profoundly alone. Genuine connections were rare, authenticity almost non-existent. Then Jack entered my life with simple honesty, kindness, and sincerity, qualities that utterly transformed my understanding of what truly matters. Jack Carter never asked for my money or my influence. He only ever asked for my honesty and trust." Cameras continued clicking softly, the room wrapped in attentive silence as Emma continued, emotion subtly thickening her voice. "Jack showed me the courage to love fearlessly, openly, without concern for judgment. He taught me that genuine happiness isn't found in status or money. It's found in authenticity, integrity, and unconditional support. I love Jack deeply, sincerely, without reservation, and his presence in my life is neither a mistake nor a weakness. It's the greatest gift I've ever received." Emma's gaze slowly swept the room, her voice firming resolutely as she made her closing declaration. "So today, I ask you all to look beyond prejudice, beyond superficial judgments. Jack is a good, honest man whose integrity and courage should be admired, not criticized. I chose him not despite his differences, but precisely because of them. He makes me better, stronger, kinder, more genuine, and for that, I stand proudly beside him." The room remained quiet for a brief moment, Emma's heartfelt words resonating powerfully. Then slowly, applause broke gently through the tense silence, growing steadily louder until it filled the space with sincere acknowledgement and respect. Emma stepped carefully from the podium, heart still pounding anxiously. Jack met her immediately, gently taking her hand in his, admiration and quiet pride shining openly in his gaze. "You were incredible," Jack whispered softly, voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for believing in me." Emma squeezed his hand gently, tenderness glowing beautifully in her eyes. "Thank you for being someone worth believing in." As they walked quietly off stage together, the room still echoing gently with applause, Emma felt deep peace settle gently within her heart. Facing their critics had required courage, but standing beside Jack, embracing truth openly, had been the easiest decision she'd ever made. Today, they'd silenced doubt, chosen honesty, and claimed the future they both deserved, fearlessly, beautifully, together. Jack stood tall beside Emma at the entrance of the Kingsley Grand Ballroom, shoulders squared, heart steady despite the soft buzz of anxious energy in his chest. Around them, polished guests arrived in waves, dressed impeccably, eyes curious, but now respectful as they greeted him warmly. This time, Jack met each gaze with quiet confidence, his steady handshake firm, voice calm, carrying sincerity rather than hesitation. Emma's eyes sparkled with quiet pride as she watched him effortlessly engage in conversations, no longer overwhelmed or hesitant. Gone was the discomfort he'd previously felt in this glittering, intimidating world. Tonight, Jack radiated confidence, built carefully through genuine effort, hard-earned respect, and the steadfast support Emma had provided without hesitation. As they moved through the elegant room, mingling comfortably, Jack noticed Greg approach him, extending his hand warmly. "Jack, it's great to see you tonight," Greg said sincerely, voice tinged with genuine admiration. "You've really made a difference at the company. I was wrong about you. Oh, and I'm glad Emma proved me wrong." Jack smiled warmly, shaking Greg's hand firmly. "Thanks, Greg. That means a lot." Greg glanced warmly toward Emma, adding quietly, sincerely, "You chose well, Emma. Jack's exactly what we all needed, someone real." Emma slipped her hand gently into Jack's, eyes glowing softly with quiet affection. "He's exactly what I needed too." As the evening continued, Jack moved effortlessly between conversations, discussing business, charity, and future plans with genuine warmth and thoughtful insights. He felt no lingering insecurity or anxiety. Instead, quiet certainty anchored him firmly, reminding him that he had earned his place here through honesty, integrity, and sincere effort. At one point, David Harrington approached cautiously, offering Jack an apologetic, hesitant handshake. "Jack, I owe you an apology," David admitted quietly, embarrassment evident in his tone. "I misjudged you, and I was wrong. You've clearly proven yourself." Jack accepted David's handshake calmly, no resentment lingering in his voice, only sincere acceptance. "I appreciate you saying that, David. Let's put the past behind us and move forward." Emma watched from a short distance, deeply moved by Jack's graceful acceptance and quiet dignity, her heart swelling proudly. Later in the evening, as they stood together near the balcony doors, she gently touched his arm, eyes shimmering softly with deep emotion. "I'm so proud of you, Jack," she whispered warmly, sincerity bright in her eyes. "Seeing you tonight, so confident, respected, means everything to me." Jack turned gently toward her, heart beating quietly with tender gratitude. "Emma, none of this would have been possible without you believing in me first. You trusted me, supported me, even when everyone else doubted. I belong here tonight because you never stopped believing I could." Emma's eyes glistened softly with quiet tears, happiness radiating deeply from her expression. She leaned gently into his embrace, whispering tenderly, "You belong here because of who you are, Jack. Strong, humble, honest. Everything you've achieved, you've earned completely." Jack smiled quietly, warmth blossoming powerfully within his chest, finally understanding the truth of Emma's words. His belonging wasn't something granted by Emma's status. It was something he'd earned step by step through quiet determination and genuine effort. As the gala continued, laughter and conversations flowing easily around them, Jack held Emma close, heart quietly peaceful, confidence steady. Tonight, he'd proven not only to others, but to himself, that his place beside Emma within her world was deserved. And together their future stretched beautifully ahead, defined clearly by love, respect, and quiet certainty. The moon hung gently above, casting a delicate silver glow over the quiet sidewalk where their paths had first crossed. Emma walked slowly beside Jack, curiosity flickering softly in her eyes, sensing something significant in the quiet urgency of his steps, the gentle tension radiating quietly from his shoulders. Around them the city murmured softly, distant lights shimmering warmly in the night. Jack slowed to a stop, heart beating rapidly in his chest as he turned gently toward Emma, meeting her questioning gaze beneath the soft light of a street lamp. She glanced around in quiet confusion, eyes widening slightly in recognition. "Jack," she whispered softly, surprise and gentle wonder mingling beautifully in her voice. "Is this where—" "Yeah," Jack said quietly, voice thick with emotion, eyes brightening tenderly. "This is exactly where I found your wallet that rainy day, right here, in this spot." Emma felt her heart tighten gently, warmth spreading softly through her chest as she absorbed the significance of their return to this place. "It feels like a lifetime ago," she murmured softly, smiling warmly. Jack gently reached out, carefully taking her hands in his, eyes deep and earnest beneath the soft moonlight. "Emma, when I found your wallet, I had no idea how much it would change my life, how completely you would change my life." Emma held her breath softly, heart beating quickly with quiet anticipation, as Jack continued, voice low and filled with sincere emotion. "You showed me what genuine happiness could look like, not wealth or privilege, but honest, unconditional love. You've stood beside me through doubts, through challenges, always believing in me even when I struggled to believe in myself." Emma felt tears gently fill her eyes, moved deeply by Jack's quiet sincerity, his heartfelt words resonating powerfully in the quiet night around them. Jack drew a small velvet box carefully from his jacket pocket, lowering slowly onto one knee, his voice trembling gently with deep emotion. "Emma Kingsley, you've given me and Lily the greatest gift imaginable, a family, a future. You've made me braver, stronger, happier than I ever dreamed possible. Will you marry me and let me spend the rest of my life making you as happy as you've made me?" Emma's breath caught softly, tears gently tracing their way down her cheeks, her voice shaking beautifully as she answered tenderly, "Yes, Jack. 1,000 times. Yes." Jack's face lit warmly with joy and relief, standing slowly to wrap Emma tenderly into his embrace, their kiss soft, gentle beneath the quiet stars above. He slipped the delicate ring carefully onto her finger, its quiet sparkle capturing the gentle moonlight, sealing the quiet truth of their love. Emma gently touched Jack's face, voice soft, filled with genuine wonder. "Who knew losing my wallet could lead me right here, to the happiest moment of my life?" Jack smiled tenderly, eyes glowing beautifully with quiet warmth. "Sometimes life has a way of leading us exactly where we're meant to be, even through the smallest, simplest things." They stood quietly together, wrapped gently in each other's arms beneath the gentle stars, hearts beating softly with quiet gratitude, their journey having brought them perfectly full circle. They'd faced judgment, doubt, fear, and yet, through it all, love had triumphed quietly, beautifully. Tonight, beneath the stars, their future stretched quietly, brilliantly ahead, promising a lifetime filled with quiet strength, gentle happiness, and unconditional love. Emma gazed into Jack's earnest eyes, her vision blurred gently by the tears shimmering softly beneath her lashes. Her breath trembled quietly in her chest, heart overwhelmed by the weight and beauty of this moment. The tiny ring sparkled delicately on her finger, a perfect reflection of the fragile yet powerful bond they had forged together, overcoming doubt, fear, and judgment to find this tender, heartfelt truth. "Yes," she whispered again softly, emotion thickening her voice beautifully, the single word carrying profound depth and gentle conviction. Jack, yes, I want to spend forever with you. Jack's shoulders relaxed gently, quiet relief and overwhelming happiness shining openly in his eyes. He stepped forward carefully, pulling Emma tenderly into his embrace, gently cradling her against his chest beneath the soft, reassuring glow of the street lamp. Emma leaned into him gratefully, feeling the steady, comforting rhythm of his heartbeat, finally allowing herself to fully believe that this happiness, quietly powerful, deeply real, was truly hers to keep. "It's amazing," Emma murmured softly against Jack's chest, voice gently awed by the realization slowly settling within her heart. "We met because I lost something, but in that moment, I found everything I'd ever needed." Jack pressed a tender kiss gently against her hair, his voice quiet, deeply sincere. "I believe fate brought us here, Emma, exactly when we both needed each other most. I can't imagine my life now without you, without us." Emma gently drew back, looking up into Jack's eyes, tenderness and quiet acceptance radiating gently between them. "Neither can I. It's strange, isn't it? How one seemingly ordinary moment can change our entire lives?" Jack smiled softly, gently tracing his thumb across her cheek, quietly brushing away a lingering tear. Maybe that's how fate works, bringing two hearts together when neither was expecting it, showing us how love can change everything. Emma felt quiet certainty settle warmly within her chest, understanding now how their journey, filled with challenges, skepticism, judgment, had been guided gently yet deliberately toward this very moment. Every struggle had brought them closer, deepening their trust, their bond, until they stood together beneath the stars, hearts finally open, fully accepting the gift fate had quietly placed into their hands. "Jack," Emma whispered softly, voice filled with gentle wonder, "thank you for not giving up on us, even when it seemed impossible." Jack held her gaze tenderly, sincerity shining deeply within his eyes. "And thank you for choosing me, for loving me, despite everything that should have kept us apart." They stood silently beneath the soft glow of the night sky, hearts gently intertwined, the quiet truth of their journey resonating beautifully between them. Fate had indeed guided them to this moment, patiently teaching them trust, courage, acceptance, finally allowing them to embrace the happiness they both deserved. Emma slipped her hand gently into Jack's, heart quietly peaceful, finally understanding completely that their love, born from honesty, courage, vulnerability, had always been meant to be. And as they turned slowly to walk forward side by side beneath the stars, they knew with quiet certainty that their future, once uncertain, now beautifully clear, was exactly where fate had always intended them to be. Soft laughter and cheerful voices filled Jack's modest backyard, as golden afternoon sunlight filtered gently through the trees, casting warm patches across the grass. Emma stood beside Jack, her hand fitting naturally, perfectly into his, as they watched Lily twirl joyfully in her pale blue dress, chasing butterflies with carefree delight. Friends and family mingled comfortably, their smiles genuine, sincere, echoes of the deep happiness surrounding this beautiful moment. Jack squeezed Emma's hand softly, quiet gratitude glowing warmly in his eyes. "Look at us," he murmured gently, voice thick with quiet emotion. "Who would have imagined we'd be standing here today, celebrating a future I never dared to dream of?" Emma turned toward him, warmth radiating tenderly from her expression. "Sometimes the greatest journeys begin from the smallest moments, like finding a wallet on a rainy sidewalk." Jack smiled quietly, remembering vividly the fateful moment that had transformed both their lives. "I still remember the way my heart raced, holding that wallet, having no idea it was leading me straight to you." Emma leaned gently against him, voice soft with genuine wonder. "And I had no idea losing it would mean finding you, someone who changed everything I believed about love." Lily bounded toward them excitedly, cheeks flushed softly, eyes sparkling brightly with joy. "Daddy, Emma, come dance with me," she called happily, small hands reaching eagerly for theirs. Jack and Emma exchanged quiet, tender smiles, gently stepping forward, allowing Lily's infectious joy to sweep them onto the grass. They moved together, carefree laughter mingling beautifully beneath the gentle afternoon sun, each step sealing the powerful promise of their new beginning. Later, as the sun dipped gently toward the horizon, Jack stood quietly, arms around Emma, watching Lily play happily nearby. Emma rested her head softly against his shoulder, heart quietly peaceful, finally embracing completely the life she'd always secretly yearned for, a life built on honesty, trust, and genuine, unconditional love. "We're truly lucky, Jack," Emma whispered softly, sincerity gently coloring her words. "To have found each other, to have this beautiful family." Jack kissed her gently, voice filled deeply with quiet assurance. "And we'll never take it for granted. Every day we'll choose each other, choose honesty, kindness, the same things that brought us together." Emma lifted her eyes slowly, voice quiet but certain. "Forever." As their friends gathered comfortably around, Jack raised his glass gently, eyes filled warmly with gratitude and quiet confidence. "To new beginnings," he said warmly, sincerity shining clearly in his voice. "To the unexpected paths that led us here and the love that brought us together." Glasses lifted softly, cheers and warm laughter mingling gently in the air, each heart present feeling quietly moved by the genuine love that had transformed Jack, Emma, and Lily's lives. As evening stars gently began to appear, Jack, Emma, and Lily stood quietly together, wrapped beautifully in the warmth and security of their newfound family. Their journey had begun with a single, simple act of kindness, one honest decision that had quietly changed their entire world. And now, standing beneath the gentle twilight, hearts intertwined quietly, they fully embraced this precious future, a life built lovingly on trust, courage, and the beautiful certainty of knowing they'd found their way home, together.